Oh baby, it's better than Super Bowl Sunday.
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. I have a big old smile on my face right now because I finally received some good news from the doctor, and it's a nice, bright, sunny day outside as well. So happy Wednesday, I think it is. Happy hump day to you out there in cryptocurrency land. There's plenty to talk about today, and also, more importantly, there is plenty of price action that I do believe is going to be relevant to the very short-term, medium-term, and even higher-term time frame moves. I believe that we're going to be looking at that face-melting move sooner rather than later, and when I say that humbly within the next few days. I think is very, 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 very likely. And welcome to our new friend who just subscribed. Want to say hello to you. Good to meet you, sir. I missed your name over there, but get ready for some goddamn cryptocurrency analysis, some magic internet money business as we get really deep and down and dirty into this. Anyways, other than that, I don't really have too much to update on. I do want to say a massive thank you to everyone reaching out, and more importantly, let's actually talk about some analysis over here. So, open interest still kind of hovering within that phase that tells us that we have still yet to see the big bad move. It is still not too late to see the culmination of basically a 2-month long consolidation, which historically for Bitcoin has led into multi-$1,000 moves, which I do believe that we're kind of going to be looking at in these next couple weeks of price action here, probably starting sooner rather than later, and then extrapolating over the next few weeks, maybe a month or so, whatever it ends up being. I don't really care too much for time analysis. Don't really think that can be done, but we do have some tools to give us an insight into what's likely here, as well as probabilities, which we'll get into just a second. Other than that, we do see that all of the top end metrics still pretty much the same. The market's slowly grinding up. The fear and greed index still in the fearful zone, actually, which to me is really starting to align with a more bullish look on this as far as resolving the greater picture to the upside, as that was and has been for the last $1,000-$1,500 the most bullish thing on the board. That's quite literally what it means to climb the wall of worry while everyone is incredibly fearful. Bitcoin more than doubling in price action from the from like the $3,500 low, whatever that spike low was. So to me, that is significant. And there's actually plenty to talk about with the big focus on the higher term timeframes, as we are going to see the monthly close in 1 day. Hold on, I think it's 1 day. Yeah, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we get a new monthly, and that's going to be a big focus of today's analysis. So I actually want to start this off a little bit differently, as we do see traditional markets kind of coming back down to the same areas that we spoke about yesterday. I did say that NASDAQ futures were going to come back down to this area right around here, right around 8650-ish region. They did indeed come back down around there, and then having a nice bounce right around there. Right after that, absolutely beautiful on top of that. So to me, this is actually still shaping up to be more or less bullish, as we do start to wedge ourselves into this nice ascending triangle. And as long as we hold this prior low right here, I would hold on to that belief essentially. And seeing as the traditional marks and Bitcoin seem to be more or less correlated, and maybe even more so with NASDAQ rather than SPY, just like on the minutia, so to speak, I do believe that this bodes well for Bitcoin in the short and medium term, which obviously has implications with the higher term timeframes, which leads on to, well, the longer term, I suppose. Bouncing back up extremely well in the early morning hours. I do expect resolution on this probably by end of week, especially seeing as this week is the week of earnings. So unless there's an absolute melter of a move back down below 8650, I believe that we just saw that last little test right there, and now it's time to kind of probably float around and just fill this out a little bit. But overall, any sort of a move back up to the 8950 high, I would look for resolution to the upside, and that's going to likely propel a move pretty damn high. Or sorry, I shouldn't say pretty damn high. That's terrible thing to be saying as a trader. But I do believe that we can make a measured move here, and just give a little bit of respect to this move. I do think that we'd be popping back up to the 9300, 9400-ish region right around here, which is correlated with this gap coming in from probably late February right here. So I do like that. Let's actually get it into more of a liquid zone territory. There we go, and we can even put a nice little blue box around there. So yes, if we do see that move up, I'd be expecting Bitcoin to really take a leg up here as well. And we do even have have an inverted head and shoulders here on the macro. I mean, everyone's really bearish on traditional markets. I'm not, and I don't really have any reason to be ever since this area right here. And I hope that I've been pretty damn forthright with expressing that, because my views on the stock market are more correlated with Bitcoin price action than I think even myself looking at Bitcoin price action, because I've been more or less with a bias boner to the downside on Bitcoin, and that's obviously been wrong in the short and medium term, and now looking like that's going to be wrong in the long term. As Bitcoin kind of grows, rounds its way up. Although to be fair, I have been bullish in the short term for Bitcoin. The medium and long term, though, I have been postulating that big downside move. I don't think that we're going to be getting it, especially if we see this baby rocket up to the upside. We do have something else of major interest here, and I'm gonna be spending a lot of time on traditional markets today, just because I think that it actually helps the bullish case for Bitcoin a lot more than Bitcoin does. Although Bitcoin looks, it looks interesting here, of course. But on top of this, I do want to also put the focus on the golden cross that was hinting at a death cross right here in early April, as you can see. And this is a clear signal that as the bots and algos kind of hint at or try to pull the less sophisticated bots and algos into a downside move, it gets reverted right at the last second, and that is a damn strong indicator of more upside price action. That's why we really got bullish in this region right here after getting moderately bullish on this region right here after this higher low. So to me, this still looks good, and to be fair, we are pretty damn close to resolution. I do think that this one gets resolved probably by end of week, and technically speaking, just from that right, if you want to call it a right shoulder, if you want to call it the ascending triangle, a bullish reaccumulation formation, nonetheless, we do have a measure move pointed up all the way over here, and if we do want to extend this even more, we can say that this inverted head and shoulders can really rocket this baby up quite a bit. Now I'm going to do a terrible measure move on this, but this is actually pointed up towards significantly higher highs, obviously, and this is, that's in the 5 digits at that point. Let's go see if E-mini futures kind of agree with this, which I imagine they probably do. Although if you're looking at just straight up stock market, the closures yesterday night were not all that great. But looking at this right here, it's an obvious uptrend. We have hit the 618. We did say that we were likely to hit that 291 target, which was hit yesterday, which did produce an immediate sell-off, which was right. But right after that, of course, it gets bought right on back up. And to me, that's again bullish. There's nothing bearish about retesting the highs multiple times. If things really truly are bearish, and this is going to correlate with Bitcoin as well, you don't get multiple chances to sell the absolute top. And this one right here, giving you a few, is not indicative of inherent long-term bearishness. It isn't. Maybe we have a short-term downside move, of which we did have yesterday, which we did say was likely back down to that 285 level. We could even come back down all the way to 2820 or 282 if you're looking at SPY, and still remain in this overall uptrend, even on the lower-term timeframes. To me, that is strength, and any sort of a daily doodle close above 295, and I'd be targeting to move all the way back up to 310-ish region for SPY, somewhere right around like a little bit above 3100 for E-mini futures right here. So I like all these areas, and I do believe that's going to correlate well into Bitcoin. So let's go check out Bitcoin right here, right now, and start to wrap this up, or maybe not wrap this up, because I do have a lot more to say about this, I suppose. But let's go back to our BitMexican chart from yesterday. So yesterday I was I was actually holding a short yesterday. I've actually covered that by buying a call spread today, and this is looking better and better, to be quite honest with you. Now, technically speaking, have we broken out of the of the long-term area right here? No, technically not just yet. It is grinding this area up quite a bit. We do see multiple wicks at this 7,800, 7,900 level, and Bitcoin price action being resilient within this region nonetheless. And of course, to follow up on yesterday, there was no real inherent bearishness, even on the short-term timeframes, as long as Bitcoin was again closing those 4-hour dildos above 7,700, a very aggressive area to be managed on, to be fair. But Bitcoin holding it up, putting a few wicks into that region, as you can see, just riding the 21 the whole way up. To me, that's there. As soon as I saw that, I started to buy some call spreads and cover the upside, and now I'm actually a little bit I'm very well positioned if this thing does break to the upside. By the same token, if it breaks to the downside, I'm actually pretty well positioned for that as well. That's the beauty of options. At the end of the day, I do have to be very forthright with saying that I come from an options background. I used to be a market maker author. I traded in equity options on ARCA, and so this is just the beauty of options in the sense that if you have just just a small, I shouldn't say small amount, but if you have a decent amount of experience with options, you can pretty much figure out ways to cleverly position around your spot positions, which are almost always, again, I shouldn't say always, but you can usually figure out a way that's going to produce a profit, or at the very least break even. And in this case right here, I really like the way that I'm positioned. As long as Bitcoin doesn't stay at about 7,800, it's all good. That's essentially the way that I look at it right here. And I do believe, based upon historical volatility percentile, that we're not going to be staying here for very much longer, whether it moves to the upside or the downside. This is incredibly mature. We are at the culmination of about 2 months of contraction, which is going to align with a big resolution. If you're familiar with Wyckoff terms, that's just constructing a massive cause, which leads to an even bigger effect. A big cause leads to a bigger effect is what I'm trying to say. And a cause being built up is essentially, longer consolidation. So right here, we do have this apex coming in, or I guess I don't have it because I didn't do, oh yes, I did do it here. It's still coming in around mid-May, which I believe is around the halving date, which does provide a little bit of a catalyst, fundamentally speaking, I suppose. Although I'm not necessarily, I'd rather trust that. I mean, it's just easier to get it from this region right here. Jesus Christ, man. Just easier to focus on things that are, what's the word that I'm looking for? Tangible. And historic volatility percentile, perhaps one of the most tangible indicators out there. And what do we see here? We're looking at a resolution date. I mean, realistically, statistically speaking, it could happen at any moment in time right now, with extreme likelihood today, tomorrow, the next day, right around this kind of 75% filled marker right here before the apex. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to resolve. It's just the statistical likelihood of it becomes massively exponentially higher in this region right here. And I do believe that that's essentially lines up with what we're doing right now. Because if you look at price action charts, we've been grinding up this macro area for days now, which again is that's just not bearish. If this was bearish, okay, well, there you go. If this was bearish, you'd expect to get like one spike up, come back down, and not give you a second chance to enter short on that again. We do obviously have this one, and then reapproaching it right here and looking to close a strong 4 hour probably relatively soon. I think in the next 2 hours we do close this one. Yes, indeed. That's going to look better, and so we can now march up and line up the short-term timeframes with the medium and higher-term timeframes. And what do you know? This is going to get this point of failure for even the short-term timeframes is going to get kicked up one level, just once again, just going from level to level here on the short term on the 4 hour, and we can move that up to about 7,800-ish region as long as Bitcoin is above there on a 4 hour total closing basis. There's not even really any short-term downside that I see, and realistically, we're going to see those 4 hour Stokes work their way up again, maintaining the bullish control zone. I think that it's just about ready, and from a medium time frame perspective now, from just even a medium time frame perspective, not even a short term time frame perspective, we can move that point of failure up to yesterday's short term level at 7,700. As long as Bitcoin holds that, I don't really even see much of a threatening move to the downside. And if it did break, I would look for a move down here towards this blue box at around 7,450. So again, you're seeing all of the levels kind of get moved up as Bitcoin price action kind of proves itself. And this is strength, to be fair. We do see that 4 hour historical volatility percentile has been contracting for the last few days. So even on the short term, this has been considered a nice little orderly consolidation. And we probably are looking for resolution on this one pretty damn soon. I would imagine somewhere right around here, which is actually tomorrow. It looks like midday tomorrow for myself in Helsinki, Finland times, which means that that's going to be like late in the day, perhaps for the Western Hemisphere if you live in America. And again, I'm not saying that Bitcoin, I'm not even postulating a direction right here, even though it's obviously a lot more close to breaking to the upside than the downside, as we've been looking at with the what's it called? With the probability calculators with regards to historical volatility percentile, which have been suggesting that the upside is still the statistically the probabilistically minded more side to be resolved here. And Bitcoin just proving its way just every time, just kind of clearing the next level. It is feeling a little bit hot, to be fair, but realistically, we're going to have a chance to close an incredibly strong bi-monthly. So I haven't even been looking at this for the last few weeks. I haven't talked about it once, but this is perhaps the most bullish thing to me long term. Looking at the bi-monthly right here, we do see, let's put it actually on log scale for a second, just because, just makes it a little bit easier to read. Any sort of a bi-monthly close, which is closing at the end of this month. So it's not just a monthly close tomorrow, it's also a bi-monthly close. Any sort of a bi-monthly close above 7,300 is going to be interpreted as massively bullish long term. massively bullish long term. Now, that does not mean that Bitcoin can't come back down and test around, low 6,000s. In fact, I think that that's actually still in the cards, more medium and long term. But as far as the macro goes, this would suggest that not only is the long term low in, that might be like a very, very, very long term low, like a multi-year long low, assuming that this closes in a good posturing. So again, just one more day to go for resolution on that. But to take that one step further, I do stick with what I've been saying on the monthly. If the monthly does close above 7,300 or wherever the 21 exponential moving average is, which is 7,350 right now, I would revert to being my macro view is going to be bullish. Again, doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't come back down and test around the low of this month that we're currently working on. I think that's possible. It's just the low as far as I'm concerned as a trader would be in. And again, I come from this perspective as a trader, first and foremost as an options trader, and then second as a spot trader in a sense, although I do combine the two, of course. That's where the true magic happens, in my opinion. But I'm always thinking from that sort of perspective. So this expansion phase in historical volatility percentile, if this comes to the upside, I do not think Bitcoin will be stopping just at like 8,400-ish region. I do think that it would be a short-term pullback, of course. I do think that this is getting relatively hot right here. But after a short-term, medium-term consolidation in the 83 to 8,400-ish range, assuming that we break to the upside here, which would be had, sorry, I didn't even talk about this, which would be had by a 4-hour total closure above literally our spike high right there at 79.24. I mean, to the fucking T, actually. Then I would be targeting to move actually another $1,000 higher, most likely 9,500, and 10,000 is also in the cards. We'll get to that bridge when we cross it, or whatever the fucking saying is. I know I didn't get it right again, but it's even better because then it creates some controversy in the comments. Like, Krown, do you not know your sayings? No, I barely even know how to speak English, man. If I didn't know how to trade, I'd be so fucked. I'd be so fucked in life, because communication is maybe not my best suit. But I do try. I try at least. Anyway, so I should still talk about the downside here just in case if it actually does happen. If Bitcoin were to come down below the short-term range at 7,800, it's really not all that interesting right there to me for any sort of a legitimate downside trade. It's actually down below 7,700 that propels some interesting movements. If we can break 7,700, even on like an hourly or 2-hour close, or even just a wick below 7,650, not even close below there, it's probably going to be good enough. I would look for a test down to this blue box. In this blue box, very, 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 very important. I would expect the medium time frames to at least attempt to bounce off it if it was tested. This is the same trend line coming in from our March 13th low, which if that one does break, again, first test I would be looking for a bounce, but if it does break, I would actually still be looking at a move down towards the upper 5,000s now, which is currently at about 5,900. You will notice that measured move has actually been moved up prospectively for about $300-400 now from wherever the 200 simple was, like at 55.50. This is this trend line down here, and that's because Bitcoin just has, the longer that it fails to actually break this trend line that it's been riding, the more and more that the proverbial move, the measure move to the downside, would be adjusted to the up or to the upside. So I feel like that doesn't really make too much sense, but what I'm trying to say is that the longer that it rides this, if it actually does break down and operates as a rising channel, then the proverbial move, the measure move, would not be as severe to the downside. So that's another thing for bulls kind of chew on here as well. And like I said, while I am pretty much switched up, I'm more or less neutral. I will lose money on my options trade if we actually do stick around the 7,800 level for the next few days. But as long as we move above about 79 or below 77, it's all good for me, and I am more than happy with that. That is the beauty of options. So for the people in the options program, this is the time, as I've been saying for the last few days, think in terms of spreads here. This is the actual time. This is one of the few times where I'd actually be buying spreads, mostly because the volatility is so fucking low here. Very rarely do we get chances like this, and usually when we do, it leads to big bad moves of multi-$1,000 of expansion. We do see this last one coming in from December 2019, going all the way from propelling a $4,000 move to the upside. Again, direction neutral, even though a lot of these are going to come to the upside. Right on over here, we have another example of a couple $1,000 move to the downside from 12,000 down to 94. We have another example right here from 10.3 down to 77, 75. So a $3,000 move. Time before that was coming out of this switch up right around here in February 2019. So you get the idea. We're talking about likely a big bad move incoming. So here's the thing. Well, I've just sung the praises of Bitcoin on the, on all those time frames. I still need to see proper resolution. And what would be an obvious thing, or the most obvious thing for Bitcoin to do to be bullish, at least in the medium time frames, and likely set up for those macro levels to get confirmed tomorrow with the monthly close. If we get a 2-day total closure above the 200 exponential moving average right here, which is currently sitting at 7,800, so we're sitting a clean almost $100 above it right now. There's going to be no death cross to be played out. It will be completely reverted. We already had the semi-change of behavior from yesterday's closure on the 26th of April. And I think this one closes. Yeah, this one closes tonight. So any sort of a 2-day closure above 7,800. The 2-day death cross is just not going to be is just not going to be played. And to put this in perspective, anytime that we've had the death cross in the past, it's just not done what we're seeing right now. We get a test up to the 55 after this one right here. The green and the purple is what I'm referring to, but no closures above, of course. And the 21 actually wrangles price action pretty damn aggressively. Going back before that into 2014, 2015, same thing over here. Getting the death cross, it does test at 55 and the 200, but no closures even above the 55 in that example before playing out a massive move to the downside. So to me, if we get this next closure above the 200 exponential moving average, it's a wash. It's going to make me sound silly because I was harping on that for so long, but I will do that in the future. I can warn you right now, that is the way that I trade, and I will trust that in the future more than I would not. And more importantly on this, just closing above the 55 that we saw on yesterday's close I guess a day ago maybe, is kind of indicative that that's not what we're doing. We are going to see momentum also just get really, really up here. That's fine though. I'm curious though where everything starts to turn back down around. So let's put on the reverse Stochastic indicator cross, and we do see that the 2-day will cross back down to the downside below 7,600. That sounds familiar with our lower term time frame levels, although even a little bit lower than that 7,700ish level that we spoke about on even like a 2-hour closure. I'm curious what the daily would show as well. Daily shows about 7,700. That's directly correlated with that short-term move. So we're seeing once again just the line in the sand being drawn up just a little bit more and more with each and every passing move. The 12-hour going to show pretty much the same area, 7850-ish region right here. So this one's a little bit more in danger, as you can see. And this one also, exceeding the trend line, actually breaking the trend line at the same time. So if there's anything that does make me a little bit apprehensive here, it's a 12-hour, but again, needs to close below 7850 to turn back down around. And I am concerned about this as well. Anytime that we've gotten this high on the 12-hour jewel, it's not been that good for Bitcoin price action. You know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll put in a nice horizontal right here. Put it right here. So I just want to kind of go over this trend line for a second. Anytime that we've met this trend line, and to be fair, there have been a few exceptions in 2017 where we actually did exceed it, but for the most part, anytime that we get around this trend, okay, there's actually plenty in 2016 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 examples. Other than that, it's pretty standard that anytime we do meet this trend line, we're putting in a major top. And when I say a major top, again, for clarity's sake, we're talking about like June 2019 right here at 14,000, I believe it was. Yeah, got it right to the fucking T. The time before that was this top right here. Obviously, the uptrend was not over, but it did produce a pretty nasty downside move to the tune of 26.5% almost immediately, which is pretty damn nice. Other than that, let's go back in the history of time here. And let's see what the other ones have done. The other one getting this move to the downside right here. This one, another probably 20% move, 30% move actually to be exact. The time before that was back on over here on the $20,000 high, and then a few examples during these corrections in 2016 and 2017. But overall, it does typically start to get a little bit tired in this region. So I would say that Bitcoin is going to be due for a medium time frame pullback relatively soon. But the question is, does Bitcoin get a move up to 8,400 first and foremost? I don't really have a strong opinion on that. I'll just be going levels here, but it is of interest that Bitcoin is grinding up against the 12-hour 200 simple and daily 200 exponential moving average and 200 simple right here as well. So what I really want to see today, if I am going to really target that move up into the mid 8,000s and then probably extend that over time to 9,500, is I need to see a daily total closure at the very least above 7,900, preferably above 7,970. Sorry, Elsa's. Are you okay? Sorry about that. And that should do it. If that does happen, then yes, I would target an immediate, I shouldn't say immediate move, but a very explosive move towards 8,500, most likely 84, 8,500-ish region. Probably a small pullback there to retest back down around the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average. And then longer term, I'd be looking for expansion up to 9,500-ish region, which should be where the long-term downtrend line is actually coming in. I think. Let's confirm this really quick. Let me pull up a fresh chart. There we go. There. Okay, yes, there it is. And that should be coming in at current price action somewhere around, 90. 90 depends kind of where we approach it, but like 93 to 9,500-ish region if that were to happen. But for right now, getting way ahead of ourselves. I don't want to get that deep into future price action because I just don't think it's, again, I want to focus on traders here, not fucking moon boys and the dreamers of this world, which is great. You should dream, but as a trader, it's just not helpful. So let's actually go. I didn't even talk about the low term time frame also, but let's see what the 4 hours printing right now. We do see that the 4 hour reverse Stochastic indicator cross is showing 78.50, so it's actually directly correlated with the 12 hour. That's a good pivot point, not just for the short term time frames, but the medium term time frames. If Bitcoin does close this next 4 hour and by extension the 12 hour below 78.50, yes, I would look for a return back down to like 74.50, 7,500-ish region, but it's not really looking like that right now. We got another little bit less than 2 hours to go in this 4 hour little closure, and it's so far so good with momentum oscillators all pointed up. 4 hour RSI is good here as well. We played out the bearish divergence just barely yesterday, down to the 21. Not that crazy of a move, maybe at most like a couple percent. I mean, that's not what you're looking for. So fair enough. I'm curious what the 3 hours is going to be showing. 78.20. So they're all going to be in the same area. It looks like 7,800 for the 2 hour, and hourly is going to show 7,900. So you can see that everything's being walked up here, and this is looking pretty ripe. So if we are going to see the move to the upside, I do think that it happens. I think it's extremely likely that it happened today. I've been saying that for the last few days. I mean, just going off historical volatility percentile, I think that's pretty damn clear. Let's go check out the the expected moves chart right here and see what the levels are going to show. Remember, 78.50 is 78.50, which was our upside target yesterday for continuation, is now going to be kind of our gatekeeper for even the short and medium time frames. Keeping that trending move to the upside, and it's actually a 34% chance that we actually do close above it on this next 12-hour dildo. So again, I'll repeat, the next 12-hour dildo, 34, a little bit over 34% chance that we actually do close above it on this next one, which should catalyze that next move to the upside, set up the daily for a damn good closure. I will take a much more conservative estimate on the daily, saying 8,000 as the next actionable point, although it's a little bit less than that to be fair, but can afford to be a little bit aggressive, a little bit conservative here as the ranges are quite big. 21%, that's relatively high. For comparison to the downside below 76.50, which actually I should move to 77, is also relatively high as well. This is the first time that we've actually seen the short term, the downside be a little bit more than the upside. But that's, remember, not relevant to the higher term timeframes. That's only relevant for the short and medium term timeframes below that 77, 7,800-ish level, which would again catalyze that move that we were looking back down towards this blue box at around 74 to 74.50-ish region, which would keep the downside hopes alive for the big bears. But this is, this is just not looking like it wants to do that right now. But I'll let price action tell me what to do, and for right now, it's telling me to kind of hold tight and let the options do the work, as we can actually move this down again to 70. Let's look at what the higher term time frame range is going to be. The higher term time frame range is 8,000. Again, a little bit more conservative there. You can obviously use 7,900. I think that would be even more relevant, but seeing as we're already above it right now, I don't think that that's all that fair. And then 74.50 to the downside, or let me double check. Yes, 74.50 to the downside. And what is the probability of that? Yeah, much less. So again, still the upside probabilities are higher by a great degree, actually by like a standard deviation and a half, it looks like, as this 20 versus 6. So 6 is more like a second standard deviation, 20% is a little bit less than a first standard deviation, like a half standard deviation. So yeah, it's significantly more for the upside right now still. And as we've been saying, if the upside is going to happen, we've been looking at for the last few days, even though my position was bearish, this is why I'm happy to play upon these pivots, because I can take a trade on both sides, and I can position a trade on both sides there, and that's really where the magic happens as a trader. You get into a situation where you can lose. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can lose. If Bitcoin stays right here for the next few days, I will lose money. But assuming that we do see this expansion phase come either to the upside for at least $100 or to the downside for at least a couple $100, then that will be extremely well positioned. So I do like that. Now, keep in mind, we are at a pretty macro area as well. This is also the 618 Fibonacci retracement right here, also the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average. So if Bitcoin is going to have a big fake out to the upside and then close down, it probably would happen here as well. But that's going to be very obvious with any sort of a daily total closure below 7,700 is going to keep those hopes alive. And then, of course, below 7,450 is where those hopes turn into actionable dreams. I do think that there's one major thing to be aware of on GBTC. GBTC does look more bearish, obviously, playing out what looks to be a rising wedge. But is it relevant to the spot price action when the spot price action is doing what we see right now? I don't know. I don't know. This one obviously looks bearish. It looks like it wants to come back down to like 7,100-ish region. So I do think that being a little bit cautious here just based upon that is the right thing to do. If we see GBTC even open below yesterday's low or even just trade below yesterday's low, that should be good enough for me to target a move back down here towards 7.75. And what does that mean for spot price action? Well, probably not good, as GBTC typically leads to the downside. Anyways, what else do I want to say before I leave you off? We're already 30 minutes into this video. Jesus Christ, man, already too long. all the complaints are going to start to pile on in. But at the end of the day, man, I will go back to Bitcoin lower term timeframes and just kind of reiterate the short term and medium term look. If Bitcoin does close above 70, I mean even like 79.50 on this next 4-hour dildo, that looks really fucking good. Even just above 78.50 is good enough. Remember, that keeps the momentum oscillators up for the short and medium time frames, which I do believe is going to, if we clear this area to about 79.50 on a 4-hour dildo closure, especially a 12-hour, I'd be looking for a move up to 8,400-ish region, give or take, in the next few days, most likely, and probably a pullback there. We would still be operating under this long-term rising trend line right here. Still kind of operating within the scope of this rising channel, to be fair, but I do think, after a short-term, medium-term consolidation to the downside, maybe test back down into the upper 7,000s, I'd be looking for another extension up to the probably like mid 9,000s overall. By the same token, to the downside, while it's technically like right there, the short-term timeframes, while they are relevant, I think it's good to be thorough to go through them, but I wouldn't trade them right here. 7,800 to the downside doesn't really help all that much. It's really 7,700 to the downside, where I would look for another $300 extension down to about 74.50ish region. That's where the long-term timeframes can take over once again. If we do actually break that region, I'd be looking for a small bounce on it at the very least. If Bitcoin actually does approach it, which is not looking very likely right here, to be fair. And then, yeah, I'd be looking for an overall move all the way back down here. But, Bitcoin's had many chances to sell off, and it just hasn't done it. So my bias boner turning around, I guess already from position standpoint, it's already kind of differentiated, I suppose. But I'd be looking for traditional markets to open up today, pay attention to when traditional markets open up today, see what they're doing, and then from there, if they take that next leg up, clear those critical areas that we spoke about earlier, I'd be looking for Bitcoin to either to follow or lead that party. They'll probably move at the same time as they typically do, and then we'll come back tomorrow and reanalysize it in real time. Other than that, I want to wish you well. I want to say take care, and until next time.